to come in, but I, I hear all the plans and I see them, and I see the sites around Letterkenny, but it just seems to take an age from it's first broached at a council meeting to the first blocks put on top of the other one, and then when it's completed to be actually allocated out to those who are on the housing waiting list. And the other point I'll end on is that we have a serious shortage of 3 and particularly 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom houses, and there's a massive demand, and that's why a lot of the transfer request is high in that regard. And I don't see in any of the ambitious plan that we put in front of us today enough 4 beds or 5 beds to meet the demand that's out there. Thank you, Chair.
Very good, Councillor Donegal. Folks, I'm conscious of another 11 speakers have indicated to speak so far, and we've an hour to get through this meeting, so members could be as succinct as possible, and we can get as much of this dealt with. Councillor McBrearty next.
Thank you. Well, first of all, the questions that I asked at the capital on the capital budget have not been answered, and I would like to know why. Secondly, it's a very welcome situation where we are building homes for families. Secondly, on top of that, the planned construction of other developments. But the question that I have on this is that those properties that are currently under construction and the ones that have been recently finished, can the council here today tell me that those blocks, concrete foundations, and all concrete products, and those construction jobs that have been finished and are currently being worked on over the last 2 years, are they free of all deleterious materials and sulfide minerals such as free muscovite mica, reactive pyrite, pyrrhotite, and other sulfide minerals? Now, the main question is, is the concrete and the concrete blocks and the concrete products, have they been made under the following standard: IAS-EN 12620/2002 plus A1 2008, and are they also standard recommendation 16/2016? These are the standards that those blocks and concrete products must meet. And I want an answer today if they do meet those standards, and if they don't, what is the council going to do about it? And if they haven't got those results, when are they going to begin to test for those results? Now, IS 465 is a false standard, and every council engineer that works in Donegal County Council have an ethical obligation as members, if they are members of Engineers Ireland, to state publicly why a false standard was actually created in the first place, because the standards are, as I quoted previously. Now, acquisitions. Will the council test all acquisitions, single properties or multiple properties that they buy going forward? What is the reason that they haven't tested properties and acquisitions previous to the 2020? And will they stop at some stage buying single acquisitions and multiple acquisitions from that are second-hand properties that more than likely have deleterious materials and sulfide minerals in them? Now, I want to point out the fact I have a case in my books, and we talk about housing need. This family is a family of 9, moved from one house with mica into another house with mica, and the council still has not accommodated that family. And it's shocking, to say the least, the way this family has been treated, especially when there's severe medical conditions within the family. 9 people living in a 2.5-bedroom home. What I say to that is shame on Donegal County Council for allowing that to happen. Now, there's cases of breach of contracts, in my opinion, and the most recent one is down in Inishowen, where the council sold one of their properties to one of their long-term tenants under the tenants purchase scheme in March 2020 and did not have that home tested for deleterious materials and sulfite minerals. Now, that is a crime as far as I'm concerned, and that crime must be investigated why that happened. Now, what the council should be doing for that homeowner is testing that home, giving her money back and building her a brand new house. Now, I have other cases similar to that with affordable housing schemes, with tenants purchase schemes, with shared ownerships, where people are now facing the nightmare of the deleterious materials and sulfite minerals going forward. And the council must react, must help these families, must do the testing on these homes so that these people can either enter into the so-called enhanced scheme, which I don't believe is an enhanced scheme, or they will be forced to go down the legal route if the council don't help them in some way. Now, I would like to know today why my questions have not been answered from the previous meeting. And the responsibility lies with the Chief Executive why I am not getting my questions answered. And I expect an answer to these questions that I have asked here today. And in particular, the standards that concrete blocks and concrete products are supposed to be made on since 2002 and previous to that 1996 standards, which is far higher and far more accountable than any standard IS 465. Now, Chief Executive, you put up to be an experienced chartered engineer. Now explain to me, can you make concrete blocks and concrete products under Irish standard IS 465? And if you can, please explain it to me now in ordinary layman terms so the whole of these members understand fully why IS 465 is a false standard. Thank you.
Councillor Martin Harley.
Thanks. Just a few points. Thanks, Patsy and John, for the presentation. I suppose a lot of the questions have been asked there.
Okay, I'll hand over to Patsy Lafferty. From earlier, did you want to contribute?
Yes, the whole clear the whole
Cllr as well. We'll pick up on a number of them. Just to start, the gross need and the net need, a number of members raised that, and just to confirm that the net need of 888, that doesn't include HAP applicants or existing council tenants who are seeking a transfer. So that's in the region of another 1,700 households that would bring the gross need to just over 2,500. So just to clarify that point, the net need excludes HAP and existing council tenants seeking transfers. In relation to a number of members raised the issue of affordable housing and the challenge, which I would acknowledge the challenge that people have getting on the property ladder who are caught between I suppose the limit for social housing support and being able to actually qualify to buy a house, and certainly that's an issue that we have to explore further going forward. And a number of members did refer to the affordable housing scheme. One of the initiatives coming forward, correct in that initially the scheme is targeted more probably around the Dublin and Peel regions, and particularly Cork and so forth, where there's significant costs on existing housing. But we would be hoping over time that we would be able to develop that further and include some of the locations here in Donegal. In addition to that, there's another element of affordable housing that is yet to be launched, and we await further details on it, but it's expected that it would be a beneficial initiative for people in the county, and it's termed the Shared Equity Scheme. And essentially how that would work, it would allow individuals to identify new houses to buy themselves, and for example, if their ability to meet repayment on a loan was in the region of say 160,000 for example, and the cost of the house was 200,000, there will be an equity element that the state would assist people with, so that that's something I think we look forward to seeing the finer detail on that would be beneficial for people in the county to get on the property ladder. So in general terms, just acknowledge the issue of affordable housing that has been raised by members. Another important issue that a lot of members have raised that relates to the town centre dereliction and empty properties. And the presentation earlier was outlined the importance of working across the organisation here within directorates and taking a collaborative approach to solve issues like dereliction, and that has already commenced in that regard, and our own team in housing are working closely with the regeneration team already. We've had a number of meetings in that regard, and it's important that the housing department will have a role to play in the regeneration of towns and villages, and we'll be working our way through that as to what parts of the towns are suitable for housing and what parts of the towns are suitable for regeneration for other purposes. And indeed on that, there are a number of initiatives and new initiatives coming through from the department which we'll be exploring. Some members mentioned the Cllr Frank Fund. There's also an initiative in relation to the appointment of full-time vacant homes officers and so forth, and an additional grant funding coming online to assist people to do up vacant properties and so forth. So we'll be working in conjunction with the regeneration team to I suppose take the most appropriate approach in different towns and villages. And I know that Manor Cunningham was mentioned there, and I know Ballyfeast and Orders another area that has mentioned. So there are similar examples throughout the county, and so essentially, I suppose we'll be working on a cross-directorate basis to achieve the best solutions depending on the issues in each town and village. The issue of Mica is what was mentioned in the context of the social houses, and members will be aware in October we've made a detailed submission to the department seeking approval to appoint a project team and to start planning a programme to address the issue of social houses with Mica, and that would involve also plans for temporary housing and so forth. So that's been actively examined, and as late as last Thursday we had further communications with the department. We're anxious to get that set up and running, and it's been indicated that we will have a full response from the department in the coming weeks, and hopefully that'll be positive to move that on, because as members have rightly outlined, the existing teams in the areas have sufficient or significant work with the day job, and really to tackle this properly we need a specific team in place. So hopefully in the coming weeks that'll come to a conclusion and we'll receive approval. Supported and sheltered housing is an issue raised also by a number of members, and quite correctly there was a number of good schemes that have been developed over the years. Clonmany was mentioned, and we also obviously have the scheme in Ardra, with other schemes there in Muff and in Newton Cunningham and in Fortwell here in Letterkenny. And in addition to that, I suppose we have the group homes under construction in Donegal, and we also have a group home recently completed in the Railway Park scheme in Donegal town, and we have plans also in Ballyfeast for sheltered units for older people. So we will continue to work with the HSE in that regard, and to develop I suppose a necklace of sheltered schemes throughout the county over the next number of years. So that point is well made and noted. The points in relation to the repurposing of properties in Donegal, that's a matter that certainly does need followed up, and we will continue to follow up to address that. And in relation to, I suppose, other maybe local specific issues that have been raised, I'd propose that we would deal with them at MD level, and I would take on board the suggestion that we would maybe set up proposed dates early in the year now, so that we can have those MD workshops to deal with local issues, and the dates essentially agreed at an early stage. One final point, just it was mentioned there that on our existing land bank for future delivery, there was 76 units identified in the presentation, and it seemed quite low. And the reason for that, members, is we would have other land bank in various locations that we haven't included specifically at this point in time in the delivery plan, because the strategy would be we want to sit down with yourselves at MD level before we progress a number of those. Just from my own experience previously, some of those land banks would be part of maybe the existing schemes where we would have built a number of phases already, and in some of those locations it may well not be suitable or appropriate to build further houses. So what we would want to do before we would carry out any detailed design work on that, we'd want to sit down with yourselves locally at the MD workshops and agree which of those sites would be suitable for development and which would not be appropriate. So again, we'll deal with those locally at the MDs, and maybe John, I might ask yourself to come in with a few other items.
Thanks, Patsy. Just on the land discussion, in terms of suitable zoned land that we're endeavouring to embark on, I think the important things are just to highlight zoning, availability of sewerage and water, just surface water disposal, have a means of surface water disposal, access road, the entrance and access road infrastructure into the land, and finally the legal ownership and way leaves and any burdens that might be on property. All of those are important, and all of those, or any one of those, can be an impediment to actual delivery or slow down the delivery process. So we're trying to avoid that. Just in relation to the sewage disposal, members, there is a facility within the development plan at the moment that will allow us to progress in the smaller towns and villages, even when there's no Irish water infrastructure, that we can provide as part of our scheme. If we can say a small scheme of 6 or 8 units, that we can provide as part of the scheme a sewage treatment plant for that development and the percolation area associated with that. So I think that's good, because it allows some of the smaller areas that may not have Irish water infrastructure, or may not be planned Irish water infrastructure in the next number of years, and can give a way forward to progress those. I think the Councillor McBrearty point in relation to the blockwork standard is quite correct. The ISCN 12620/2002 is the standard for blockworks, and linking to that SR 16. That's the standard for making concrete blocks. To confirm, we are testing all house acquisitions going forward. The testing has been done by recognised laboratories, and we would have tendered quite recently the provision of laboratory services and geology and geologist reports in conjunction with that. So that's all taking place on all of the acquisitions, and indeed in all of the construction projects is taking place as well. We're guided through the 3-stage testing provision in terms of Suite A, Suite B and Suite C, and indeed other additional testings over and above what's included in IS 465. So that's in hand. The initial suite of tests usually is the initial petrographic assessment, which is Suite A, and we would have consultations with the geologist post that, and then subject to the geologist making recommendations, we'll proceed on to different tests, additional tests, Suite B, Suite C. IS 465 is about the assessment, testing and categorisation of buildings containing deleterious materials. The member is quite correct, it's not a blockwork standard. It's to do with assessment and testing. So moving forward from that, just to re-emphasise that areas that don't have sewage infrastructure have the possibility is there for us to progress those, and I think that's important, because in terms of the 81 settlements, that will keep a number of them still on the table. I suppose the first task that we carry out on a project in preliminary design stage is to have a detailed discussion with the local area team in terms of the makeup of the actual house need, and that evolves into discussion as to the requirements for 1, 2, 3 or 4 bed, or indeed 5 bed, or indeed special houses for people with different challenges or disabilities, and that feeds the design process in terms of feeding the layout and the number of houses of different types, the location of houses, where they're located on the site, with particular reference to gradients, disability access, compliance with the building regulations, and so on. The building regulations at the moment now cover noise, and housing in the past would not have had the same stringent regulations in relation to noise and acoustics. In addition to an air tightness test now for the heating of buildings and thermal performance of buildings, there's also an acoustic test now which measures the noise transmission between one house and indeed one apartment and the other. And prior to accepting developments as being complete in accordance with the building regs, that test has to be carried out, verified and passed. The Lifford project that was mentioned earlier on, in terms of the Lifford Common, we would hope that probably units around about somewhere in the region of 50 units would be coming in on that land, and provision of services and infrastructure associated with that will be provided. The Cllr was missed in the overall list. That was a typo. We have a submission in on Cllr, and that's been looked at, and we're talking to our colleagues and our other services in relation to that. What we are doing regularly, members, is in all of these expressions of interest on land, and indeed as we're progressing sites forward, we're having what's called local area teams, where personnel from roads, water services, planning, environment and housing reflect on the consideration of progressing schemes, and all that's happening at the moment. And the sites that are listed and the short list of sites that are being progressed will all have that due diligence carried out. That's probably most of them, Patsy. There's probably other ones that we might come back at MD level to follow up on.
Okay, folks. Hopefully that answers all the queries. I don't want to open this up again to a full discussion. I think it was 18 speakers, so we dealt with it. As I did say at the start, we will be meeting quarterly in the MDs to monitor this, and hopefully we can keep an eye on it. I can see councillors indicating to speak, but I would ask folks, we've been at this, we're an hour behind schedule now for the full meeting. You will have a chance to address any queries you have at the MD level, and obviously the executive will be accessible, so I don't think there's a full need to go into a full meeting. But Councillor McBrearty, unless there's something pertinent you need to get off your chest.
First of all, I don't need to get anything off my chest unless you want to put it on my chest.
Sorry, can you speak close to the mic? I can't hear what you're saying.
I said I don't need to get anything off my chest. Maybe you want to put something on it, but anyway, he hasn't answered. The director has not answered my questions that I've asked here today. In fairness to John Gallagher, he has gone some way to answering the questions that the public should be told about with the problems with IAS 465, and be told honestly about it. But the issues that I raised at the last meeting, and the issues I've raised today, acquisitions, the case of a family of 9, the cases of breach of contracts with Donegal County Council, accommodating the departments with the different schemes, such as tenants purchase scheme, such as shared ownership schemes and the affordable housing schemes, those cases are breach of contracts. Donegal County Council needs to give a commitment that they're going to test those homes for those people who can't afford it, who are paying mortgages that the council put them into to allow them to buy the houses in the first place, houses that are now defective, which is the responsibility of Donegal County Council. Full stop. So I'm asking, through the chair, that the director and the chief executive answer the questions about these serious cases of breach of contracts by Donegal County Council, because they run the schemes on behalf of the department. Is it the department's fault, or is it Donegal County Council's fault? Because it's somebody's fault. So I would ask now that he answer the questions.
Okay, can I ask somebody from IS? The screen's gone off here, so I can't see if anybody's indicating online.
There's some feedback in There's some feedback in your
in response to Untitled Chapter's query there, the executive says going to get written answers on all queries, so that'll deal with it. There's feedback there.
I hope it's not like the letters you've been sending me lately, Chief Executive.
Okay, Councillor McGarvey was in first, and then Councillor O'Donnell, and then hopefully...
Did you hear that, Chief Executive? I hope it's not like the letters you're sending to me the last number of weeks. Councillor McBrearty, what?
Please,
what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Councillor McGarvey, go ahead.
Chairman, thanks very much. I listened to the directors and their explanation and everything.